Ruth Robert. Welcome, Ms. Robert. So you have up to 10 minutes or a little more if you wish, and a total of 15 minutes. The floor is yours.
Well, my name is Ruth Robert, and I'll be here representing Campaign Life Coalition, and also many people who emailed me saying we would like to be able to speak, but we can't because this bill has gone through so quickly, first reading, second reading, with little more than a day between them, that many people who are interested in expressing their opinion will be unable to because of how quickly this has gone through. I would like to remind the committee members that they are, of course, responsible for the public interest and for the laws that they make for the public. And it is therefore important to be aware of public opinion. And so far as I can tell, there has not been enough time to truly contemplate where people stand on this. It has been said to not be a contentious bill, that there's a great deal of support for it. I read in the CBC News that there was a petition with 140 signatures for it. There is a petition with over 3,000 against it. Not because people want to shame women, but because they value constitutional freedoms. So that is where I will be addressing first. Freedom of expression, freedom of conscience, freedom of religion, and freedom of peaceful assembly. I have heard the counter-argument that these bubble zones do not violate freedom of expression because protesters may simply protest outside the bubble zone. I find this to be an inadequate counter-argument. Firstly, because the nature of a protest is that the location matters and that people like to emphasize what is happening in what location to better make their point. To have the location data removed does diminish the power of a protest and therefore inhibits an individual's constitutional rights. Furthermore, the reason for these bubble zones has been said to be to protect women. Abortion Rights Coalition of Canada presented data in April 2018 that indicated there has been no severe or moderate violence from pro-life individuals in over 20 years. So this means that the only potential violence is not violent at all, but merely emotional. And I would say that people who are struggling with abortion, considering it, have had one, just don't want to think about it for whatever personal reason, they can be affected by this no matter where the protest is held. This means that if you follow your thought process through to conclusion, you will say protests cannot happen in Canada, not merely in the cases of abortion, but any contentious issue, because wherever there are divisive opinions, there are strong emotions. Therefore, I fear this bill sets precedent that will diminish, if not completely abolish, constitutional rights of freedom of expression, peaceful assembly, and conscience. And so I would hope that this would be considered by the committee going forward. I would again like to emphasize the peaceful nature of these protests. I was the individual who organized and led the 40 Days for Life campaign that was held in fall of last year. I required all of my volunteers to sign statements saying that they would be peaceful, they would not violate any laws, they would not litter, they would respect all law enforcement personnel. And I would also say that there are many entrances to this hospital. We were only standing near one entrance, which means those who were intimidated by our presence could enter from any of the other entrances. Additionally, because this is a hospital, we do not know who is going in, for what reasons. Therefore, we cannot directly target abortion-minded women. That is not the reason for our presence. The reason for our presence is to offer hope for the women who maybe don't want abortions. And I speak from personal experience on this one, for two accounts that directly affected me and my family. The first was me. When my mother was pregnant with me, it was a very difficult pregnancy. She had already miscarried my elder brother quite late. He was almost born, stillborn. And when she was pregnant with me, the same problems came up again. And she was put in a position where terminating a pregnancy might have been considered the wiser option by some medical counselors. And she wanted this child, so this was not suggested to her, but she was told that she would need to take medication that could result in a miscarriage. This is not an abortion. It's just one of those situations where the mother's life is in danger, the child could die too, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So she was given the injection. She thought she'd had a miscarriage, and she was devastated. The doctor saw the blood, said, "I'm so sorry. By law, I have to give you an ultrasound. I was born in Japan, that was the law there." And to everyone's shock and amazement and joy, I was still there, because I had been given a chance to fight that medication that could otherwise have killed me. And so we were overjoyed. And then just last year, my cousin gave birth. My cousin has epilepsy. And when she found out she was pregnant, she was on a medication that could cause deformities in a child. Her doctor did recommend abortion. You don't want to take that risk. But my cousin did not want to do that. She said she would care for her child no matter what, and therefore she chose to carry the pregnancy through, despite the opposition. She gave birth to a perfectly healthy 10-pound baby. And so I stand outside that hospital, not to condemn women if they need to make this choice, if they feel that it's necessary. I disagree, but I'm not there to condemn. I am there for the women who want their children and feel they have no other recourse, to say, I'm here, and I can tell you from experience, sometimes there are other options. I know because I have seen it. That is why I also want to say that this bill will also lead to a violation of due process. It is assuming guilt, assuming that we are there to harass, intimidate, condemn. And therefore, it is punishing us for crimes that we have not committed and likely never will. I would remind committee members that in the Criminal Code of Canada, I believe it's section 264, anything that would be harassing, intimidating towards women is already criminal. It is criminal to intimidate people, to harass people, to assault people. It is criminal. I would not contest that. It should be criminal. But because it is already criminal, we do not need a bill that will just punish people who are expressing their rights to their opinions. It will also violate freedom of religion in the process. The bill talks about besetting, but it's very broad. Besetting, to stand near to someone with the purpose of dissuading them. And then when you combine this with section 15 of the bill, a police officer may arrest without warrant. This is a gross violation of due process. Without warrant, they may arrest anyone with reasonable or probable cause. How do you define reasonable or probable? If a nun walks through there, most nuns are pro-life. Their presence might cause some people who are Catholic going in for abortion to reconsider. Is that grounds for arrest? Violation of due process, violation of freedom of religion. She might not even be protesting, but her freedom of religion is in jeopardy. I spoke to the Imam, Abdullah Yusri, about getting Muslims involved in our campaign, because many Muslims are also pro-life. He was supportive. If a Muslim woman wearing an abaya or a hijab walks through this access zone, is this grounds for arrest? This bill is extremely troublesome because it does not protect women. It merely violates people's constitutional rights. We already have laws in place to protect women. I would also say, too, that it really puts people in jeopardy because it puts the emphasis on one side of the argument. I mentioned earlier that where there is opposition, there is emotion.
1 minute.
Women who are getting abortions will feel that emotion. But I have been spat at and cursed at and verbally assaulted. That is difficult for me. But I would not say there needs to be bubble zones around pregnancy centers, because only through dialogue can we gain the best truth. Because by talking to each other, the best ideas will be preserved, the worst ideas will go away. Therefore, there's no need for a bubble zone, because if pro-lifers are truly terrible, they'll already be arrested on the laws that they already exist, or their thoughts will be considered so ridiculous, people will laugh them out of the province. We don't need this bill.
Thank you very much, Ms. Robert. Any questions from the committee? Thank you very much for coming in and sharing your views.